get us over into Facebook. So I just ask that you just be quiet for a second, because if not, it picks up like random in the conversation. It's weird. So give me a moment. I have to enter in some of our information. Hello, everyone. We are here today to kick off Hispanic Heritage Month, which is so special. So it's September 15th through October 15th. So there's going to be some really great programming going on from Self-Care Senorita and highlighting other programming from other Latina and Latino-owned businesses and conversations. So please stay tuned. We have a ton of events added into our calendar. We have the Let's Talk About series scheduled out all the way until October, our coffee chats, and then we'll have a few La Comunidad of our series as well. So today I'm really excited to introduce my friend, Michaeline, and we're going to talk about PEMF. And you are probably wondering what the heck PEMF is. And I was the same way, but then I tried it. So shout out to Olivia, who again is always such a great conduit for people and for information. She's such a supporter of Self-Care Senorita, and I'm so thankful for her all the time. So Michaeline, why don't you say hello and give us a little bit of background on what PEMF is?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Victoria. I am honored to be here in your beautiful space. Thank you, Olivia, for connecting us. My name is Michaeline. Everybody is welcome to call me Mickey, like the mouse. PEMF is a NASA-developed technology, and the acronym stands for Pulse Electromagnetic Field. The technology was developed by NASA because whenever they began to send people into space, they were coming back broken in very strange and very different ways. Like if you and I went into space, Victoria, you would come back with blinding migraines, and I would come back with horrible digestive issues like diverticulitis stuff. And what they found out was that our bodies depend on the small trickle of a negative magnetic field that we get from the Earth just by being here. When they sent people into space, their bodies lacked that tiny, constant refreshment of negative ions, and thus, in whatever way their body was weakest, their body broke in that way first.
Awesome. So that's a really great way to describe it. And so I actually came out to one of your studios, which was down in Monaca, which was really great, really close. It was right next to, if you're familiar with the area, Health Cove. So I went in, I bought some CBD oil, and then came over and got my PEMF. And just to let you know, like I did a little bit of my own research beforehand. So I wore jeans, I had a t-shirt on, I took all the metal out. So no earrings, no bracelets, no necklaces. I took my watch off. And I was, ready to go. But it was a really, really great situation. Very welcoming. The space reminded me very much of like a yoga studio, or like I was getting a massage. And so you walk in and there's this massive kind of like mat on the table. It's really comfortable, like extra thick foam, comfortable and convenient. And so Michaeline was so kind. She welcomed me in and sat me down, and you walked me through the whole entire process, which was really helpful. Even though I knew what was happening and what was going to happen, you were still like, hey, I'm going to place the tubes here and do that. So why don't you walk us kind of through a bit? I see you have the equipment in the background. Do you want to show us the equipment and we'll kind of talk about it for a second?
I sure do. So there are a couple ways in which we can deliver PEMF to people. And the pulse electromagnetic fields like to discharge themselves in circles. So we have a series of different attachments and different circles of different sizes that we use in different places for different applications. You were on what we have an attachment called the Oasis mat. And the last time we knew, we were the only people in Pennsylvania who had one, especially for PEMF purposes. The Oasis mat has 3 areas of PEMF dispersion, and it bathes you from head to toe in a very soft, gentle pulse electromagnetic field while you're listening to neurologically designed sound therapy. And there's a vibration in the mat that's a sound-driven subwoofer. The whole thing is designed to trick your body back down into homeostasis. It was neurologically developed, the sound, the vibrations, for people specifically with multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, or other chronic pain types of situations. Sometimes people in those situations have, their nervous system has gotten so used to running at such a high level of anxiety and pain and input that they have literally forgotten, their nervous system that is, how to relax and how to hit homeostasis. So a lot of times what we do, especially in people's first appointment, is I bring them in, I talk to them a little bit about what they might expect to feel with their PEMF session, and I ask whether or not they've ever had a TENS unit on them, because some people who've experienced chiropractic or physical therapy have had a TENS unit, some people haven't. The important part of the question is, have you ever had something that moved your muscles for you? Because when people have not experienced that, it can be a little bit trippy, and I don't want the experience.
My muscles moved, like they moved significantly, and I've had TENS on me before. I've had chiropractic health, so I knew what to expect, and so I knew it was doing its job, like it was working its magic, and I felt it instantly in my left side and my left hip, and even there was a little bit of pain in my sciatica, which you'll talk about why there was that quote unquote that tinge or whatever. But I know that I favor that side. I carry my son on this side. Even though I'm right-handed, I do a lot of things with my left hand, and so like even just holding him, there's just that constant stress. So I definitely felt the TENS on me, and you were like, hey, do you need this? Do you feel anything? Do you feel anything? I was like, no. And then you cranked it all the way up, and I felt it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is how it's supposed to go. This feels really good. And so there was even music that was made with it, and the sound, there's like a clicking sound. It was very meditative. I can tell you, when I was on the mat, that it felt like waves, literally waves were going over me. And as my eyes were closed, I was feeling waves and like kind of almost seeing waves. And if you're a meditation practitioner, you understand that that's like deep meditation level. Like you're really just kind of like into that zone. And I felt at one and at peace with my whole body. And as someone who practices meditation, but not an everyday serious practitioner, it was something that it was like, oh, this is nice. Like, I don't know what else it's doing for my body, but this right here is very nice. And I have to say that this session lasted about 20-25 minutes. And I was like, okay, at first I was like, well, that wasn't very long. And then the more and more I thought about it, I was like, I don't think it needed to be much longer. Like that was a perfect amount of time for my body. I think I would just wanted it longer for the simple reason of why I like after yoga, the meditation is because you're meditating. And so I was like, that's why you like, we wanted it to be longer, but it was a really, really wonderful experience for me. And so when you had the tubes on me and the waves were going over me, like I could feel that wash all over my body, like completely from head to toe. I could feel it wash over my body. And it was a really cool experience. It didn't feel weird. It didn't hurt. It made me very aware of space in my body. So if you're a yoga practitioner, you know, like when they're saying like, you know, let your breath work in, like find space in your arms or your chest. I found that space, like places that had not been stretched or moved. Like I could feel those waves kind of penetrating into there, and that was really fantastic. And one of the reasons why I got excited to try this is I have really bad arthritis in my ankle. I have a metal plate from when I broke my leg in college, and so I have a plate and screws, and when the weather starts to change, I end up in severe pain. So the minute it's chilly, just imagine, like when a plate is cold, it, you know, it radiates up into my leg, up into my hip, and up into my back, and sometimes even causes migraines because those nerves are firing off. And so I've tried everything: CBD lotion, I've tried the heating patches that you put on your legs to kind of keep it warm. I've double socks, big boots, extra heavy pants. I mean, you name it, and I have tried it to make sure that that doesn't hurt. And it's very similar to those who've had like knee replacements or hip replacements. When you have metal in your body, it, you know, it, when it's hot, I swell. When it's cold, I shrink. It's cold. And so I have to say that the weather is changing right now, and usually at this time of the year I start to get that deep ache because it's been rainy. I don't have that deep ache right now. So I mean, like it to me, I a lot. I'm also doing. I told you beforehand. I'm doing this 100 crunch challenge with a group of friends. And the day I came in, I actually was like super snotty. I had like really bad allergies going on, and I had done the crunches, and I almost didn't come because I was like sore, tired, and cranky. And when I left, I didn't have any soreness in my stomach at all. And I was like, "What magic was that? What just happened?" And so, even the next few days when I did the crunches, like I didn't feel necessarily the same soreness, and it wasn't because I just got so magically good at them overnight. But it also did help with some of the allergies. Like I came home that day and was like really drained out. um, so overall, I really felt like it was a really beneficial health holistic practice. It didn't take a lot of time out of my day. It's not very expensive. It's close, and it has some really great benefits for if you're looking for things. So like my mom has circulation issues, so she's looking into it. Me with my arthritis, I mean, I'm sold.
Well, thank you so much for coming and trying it and being willing to share and talk about these things. I also commend you both for the amount of self-care that you give yourself. It is so important, especially for females, to recognize that we have to take good care of ourselves, and also for the different things that you do to do physical challenges and to be active and involved with your body. Working with people who are aware of their body is really some of the more fun things that I get to do. Sometimes people, you know, they don't realize that they were sore whenever they came in, or they don't realize that they felt fantastic and that they weren't sore when they did their crunches for 3 days after. So it's really rewarding to me to get to work with people who are aware of their body and can give me that kind of feedback. Everybody heals differently. Everybody responds differently to PEMF. And in general, what the technology does is, if we think about our cells, we think back to grade school biology. Our cells have rings on them, just like the planet of Saturn, and
Mhm.
they can fill up with negative electrons. What this technology does, through a series of beds and loops and things that we place on you for strategic purposes and strategic ways at strategic power levels, is it will inundate the rings of your cells and fill them almost like a battery, filling every battery in your cell to full power. Now, I asked you to drink water, and I'm sure that you did. Part of the reason for that is the very first thing your body is going to want to do is take out any trash it has lying around, especially in the form of lactic acid if you're working on a new exercise program, or inflammation, circulation issues. Anytime our body gets behind, it really can have a hard time picking up the slack, because no matter what, every second of our life, our heart is somewhere in its rhythm. Our digestive system is taking apart sugars to feed our brain. So just like a computer has a general background CPU usage, our bodies have that as well. And a bit of our energy every single day is devoted to running our bodies for the sustainment of life. That means that whenever we get hurt, we get sick, we get injured, we get older, our body just does not bounce back as quickly because it's not running the way that it used to. It's further behind schedule on fixing the things and taking the trash out. And we've got so many demands and so much stress right now with the changing patterns of the world, that it's really just a fantastic thing to come bolster your body and every single cell in your body with a nice wash to recharge all of your batteries. The technology is completely safe for anybody with artificial joints, stents, screws, plates, anything like that. You cannot have PEMF if you have a battery inside of you, like a pacemaker. You cannot have PEMF if you are pregnant, because it's unethical to do research on pregnant women. So we don't know that it's safe. We don't know that it's not safe, but I'm not going to go there. And if you're on chemotherapy, because normally whenever we take a drug or medicine, we can expect to absorb maybe 50 to 80% of that drug. But with every cell in our body optimized, running around with full battery life for 12 to 36 hours after your PEMF session, you can expect to absorb 80 to almost 100% of your medication, and that can really throw off a chemotherapy regimen. So we have done it, but that's only when the doctors are willing to work with us.
Yeah, it was it was a really great experience, and like I had said, always looking for ways that are holistic and beneficial to building your body and understanding that your energies and cells. So the other thing that I wanted to touch on is that, you know, I do suffer from anxiety. So my body gets really, really exhausted. And you were talking about that homeostasis. It takes me a long time to get back to the homeostasis. And my homeostasis isn't even where it used to be, because I'm so used to running on fumes and anxiety that it's internalized. So like I could have a panic attack and be smiling at you, just because I've suffered from it from so long. And so because of that, like I have digestive issues, I have sleep issues, like there's certain times where like I can't eat anything, or it just everything bothers me. And so being able to know that this is helping getting my body kind of back into where it needs to, I can tell you that I did not feel the panic that I normally feel during the week. So on top of all the other added bonuses, I did feel myself being just a little bit calmer. But the big thing is that I was able to really pay attention and in tune. I didn't realize all the things that I was ignoring about my body because they were bothering me. So being able to even tune those out, to pay attention to like what was working or what was not working, that was really impressive to me. It was like, oh, like you don't have a headache today, or oh, your nose isn't running, or oh, like normally you're really stressed about this, but your productivity has really soared. So I think there's a lot of benefits, and I think like you had said, it really depends on every single person. The experience is different, but you also do this for animals too.
I do, and thank you so much for sharing. I think it is wonderful and powerful in a beautiful, vulnerable space, especially to share with other people that I think we all have tremendous, obviously individual levels of anxiety, but that in general, there is a lot expected of everybody in our lives these days. The technology is FDA approved for depression and anxiety. Myself, my business partner, and we have an intern who is working on her certification. My partner and I are certified for humans, horses, and small animals. I have some fantastic stories that include small animals. There's a beautiful post on the Facebook page that Olivia wrote for me after she brought her adorable, fantastic little dog Teddy, who has just heartbreaking anxiety. He was on the mat with her, and I also put loops on him separately because they came and they spent some time on the tree farm with us. And so Teddy got magna-waved with her and her partner for, on and off for about an hour. He just sort of bounced in between the two of them, like got in the loops, got out of the loops. And I don't have the post in front of me, but she said for about 24 hours, he barked twice. And he just was happier and calmer. And it is so cool to see that transformation in animals, because we don't realize how much stress they carry, but also they have occasionally forgotten how to get back to homeostasis themselves in our everyday lives. And mom came home from work and she's so stressed, and everybody's stressed and everybody's running around phones and TVs. So it is just a wonderful way to bring your body back down to base level, to just spend some time with yourself, to recharge. When you take an aspirin, you don't necessarily have to know how it works. It helps you. This is the same thing. I can talk to anybody about as much science as they would like, but I definitely recommend people come try it. It's wonderful for dogs and horses. We worked on a bearded dragon. We've worked on sheep and goats and all sorts of, cats, like cats. So it's really, because it is a technology that boosts your body to heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
If it has a heartbeat, like, it can benefit from PEMF.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about it, is that really no matter where you are in your health journey, there's a benefit to it. So, yoga is fantastic and there's a lot of benefits, but some of the benefits come, better if you're healthier or more flexible or more capable physically. And meditation, again, there's other things, but this is one thing that it doesn't matter where you are on that spectrum of your health, that there's a benefit that you're going to walk away from it. And that is something that I think is really important in telling, if you're looking for something that is self-care. And so, it was 45 minutes out of my day. I did it midday, and scheduled it in, while I'm working at home. So 45 minutes, that's a trip to Walmart, a trip to Target, that's me scrolling on Instagram. And so I didn't really feel like it took any time. I wasn't missing something, right? I didn't have to figure out how to schedule it in. Like, I got a pedicure this morning and I scheduled that in, and that felt fantastic. But that was like an hour and a half out of my day, but I had built that in. This, I didn't really feel like I had to really build or move my schedule around or anything else. I was answering emails until I walked in, and I answered emails when I walked out. So it was a very quick and easy. So I say that to say that those that feel like their lives are very busy and they can't find the time actually can make the time. And I think you do travel. So being able to do house calls and things like that. So maybe if you have a family or a house of, it's some angsty teens and someone who's hurt, or there's a lot of people are past athletes, and so they have residual scar tissue and injuries and pulls and things like that. I mean, this is a really great way to be able to start kind of working towards that healing your body. And so maybe if you've had issues with your Achilles, because I have a friend who's really suffering with a lot of issues with that, maybe you have this done and it starts to heal and gets a little bit better, and you have the capability to get into the gym or do some of the exercises or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying that this is the healing stone, right? You do it so many times and you're healed. You no longer have that injury or that issue, but it's kind of like that springboard, like that diving board. This helps me kind of kickstart and jump off onto this healthy pathway that I need. I just needed a little bit of help, a little bit of healing, and a little bit of support. And so I can't speak enough. I can't wait to schedule some more sessions with you, especially I know that it'll become part of my routine for the winter time. And so what do you think is a good maintenance schedule for someone to maintain for PEMF?
Well, that's a really great question, and it can vary a little bit from person to person. I always make the joke that if you ride bulls for a living, you're probably going to need PEMF a little bit more than the average person, because if you have a degenerative issue like multiple sclerosis, or if you have a very taxing, hard labor kind of job, then those are, of course, going to affect how often we say it might be optimal for you to get magnowaved. In general, if you come in and you are suffering from an acute pain, you've had a recent surgery, you've had a recent injury, we generally are going to ask you to try to see us 3 times in 2 weeks so that we can get you ahead of that issue. Now, in your case, you were aware that the weather was going to change, your ankle was going to begin to bother you. You knew the deep ache was locked and loaded, ready to spring on the first chilly day. So you came preemptively. That's fantastic and really optimal. What we want to do is we want to give your body the energy to stay ahead of itself, to stay healthy, to keep your inflammation down, to keep everything happy. For you, I would say, since you had such wonderful results in terms of how long things stayed. I think that speaks well to your own self-care routine, that although you're being physically active and you work and you have a small child, you're taking good care of yourself, which is obvious for how long the PEMF lasted for you. I would probably like to see you again before the end of the month, just to give you one more bump as we get into the cold season, because we know preemptively this is a tough time of year for you. So we want to keep you ahead of it. I would say in about 3 weeks, have another wave. And then I would most likely advise you to come in at the first sign of the ache.
Yeah, I think it's a great plan, and I would like to come in, so I'll schedule one for the end of October. I mean September. October is a very busy month for us, and a busy month for me. And so come over here, honey. Come on, come say hi to everyone with your little sticker. Say hi, everyone. Okay. So being able to schedule that for myself and know when the weather starts to change and starts to get like rainy and cold, which is usually end of October, beginning of November, I have a lot of deep pain. And then January and February, where it's that deep cold, does me completely in. So I would probably have to come every other week just to maintain, to make sure. Thank you. He made it almost a half an hour before interrupting, so that's a pretty good job. Hold on one second. Here, babe. There you go. This is what it's like to be an entrepreneur with a little one. He had done so good, and thank you to my mom for keeping him distracted for a good hour. So how can we find PEMF? Where can we find you? How can we contact you to get this scheduled and up and going?
Well, I think that there is a ton of fun information, beautiful reviews, and fun pictures on our Facebook page, which is By the Wave, B-Y, the Wave, W-A-V-E, PEMF. You can also call or text me at any reasonable time at 724-318-2882. And I turn my phone off whenever I sleep for exactly that reason. So you can, if you want to text me in the middle of the night, that's fine. I'll get it in the morning.
And I do appreciate that you followed up on a text message with me. Like, you could have sent a message or just said, hey, how did it go? But you did actually 2 follow-up messages. One, thanks for coming, whatever. And then like another one, like, hey, this is a week later. Like, what did you feel? And even a week later, I was still feeling like the good vibes from it. And so I think, like you had said, I was in tune with my body. I probably more so than others, just because I'm doing self-care and now I'm on this path. I know when things are out of whack with my body. So like I have crazy hormonal fluxes due to my period, and then I have the anxiety. So like when those things tag team, like my body literally is like a washcloth being wrung out. And I think there's a lot of other women who feel the same exact way. And it doesn't matter what you do, you just feel like you can't get to that homeostasis. And so I love that you use that word, because I think a lot of times that's what we're trying to say, like, oh, something's off. Like, I don't feel right. Like, I don't know what's wrong. Well, you don't, because you're not at that homeostasis. You're not okay. You're not solid. And so I think even being able to provide the language for people to know how they need to care for themselves is important.
Well, you make a really good point that physically we have a lot to contend with just by the way that our bodies are built and the cycles that we go through. We can talk to ourselves, we can phone a friend, we can take care of our mental health in therapy and with professional help whenever the situation calls for it. But there are times when it is impossible for me to talk myself out of my physiology and the anxiety or the fluctuations or the pain or whatever is happening in my body. There's no amount of pep talk that's really able to reach it in the way that I have been able to find with the Oasis mat.
I agree. I agree. I think that there's some really great stuff. And as someone who is a researcher, I did my research beforehand and, read some of the scientific facts and things like that. So I knew what I was kind of in store for. There were some positive cases. Some people are like, oh, it's patooey. It didn't work for me. And it did. It worked for me. I was sold after the first try. Like I mentioned, it's something that I plan on doing and sharing. I plan on sharing this video very specifically with quite a few people that I know that suffer from lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and some other things that really affect their body, because I think this treatment is supplemental to some of the things that they're doing already that really provides some of that relief. And I think of like people with COPD, to just help kind of get that body, because you get anxious, you get nervous, your body is stressed. People with fibromyalgia, I had an aunt who suffered from it, and there were days where, I mean, water touching her skin was immense pain. And so just even being able to help people provide just a little bit of relief, if it's for a day, people who have chronic pain, not having pain for a day feels like, a little kid. And so I just think spreading that message and sharing, self-care is so many levels. It's physical, mental, and emotional. And I think that this helps us kind of keep balance. So thank you so much for inviting me to try it. Like I said, I'll be messaging you to set up my next appointment. I'm super excited. I've talked to a few people to get them, kind of engaged and excited about this. So hopefully that they're watching. I will also post your information in so people can log in and book an appointment with you. Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
I would like to add that thank you for answering my follow-up text. I think sometimes people think it's automated, and it's not. A couple days a week, I sit down and I send those texts, and they are some of the most fun things that I get back, because I don't know how you heal, and I don't know how PEMF is going to affect you. And occasionally, maybe in like 1 out of 10 people, they're like, I didn't feel anything. And sometimes I'm like, when you got up, you felt better. I don't know what happened between then and now, but I'm gonna just wish you the best on your healing journey. And if you ever want to come back and try again, I'm also really open to reading and learning and researching with people. I try to be very honest about expectations and, telling people, here's in my experience what has happened, here's what the research says. And probably one of the coolest things about this is it's not going to hurt you.
No.
There's no crazy side effects. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and be a pile of blue goo. If it didn't work, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Right.
So you've got nothing to lose but your pain.
Really, there's no risk involved except that you might lose 45 minutes. But I mean, you could do that waiting in line for your cup of coffee in the morning. So
Instagram, we do that on Instagram.
seriously. Yeah. So, well, thank you again for joining us and telling us a little bit more about it. I am a firm believer now. You sold me. And it was always great to see your personality. Michaeline and I go back to both working at RMU together. And so we've been friends for years. So it's nice to be able to support each other in our new lives and lifestyles and new adventures and things that we do. So thank you again. This was our Let's Talk About series with Michaeline Kane, learning about PEMF. Make sure you go to our Facebook page to follow on some upcoming events that are coming for Hispanic Heritage Month, and also our Let's Talk About series. So thank you, Michaeline, again, and everybody have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Thanks.